Hi again, it's very nice to see you again in this video walkthrough of another SAT reading and writing question. And today we are going to try out another reading question related to the cross-text connection question type. Okay, now before we continue, I'd like to invite you to pause the video a little bit and try out the question on your own before you continue to watch and listen to my explanation for this question. Okay? All right, let's start the explanation. Now, before we start, I'd like to kind of reiterate the strategy and tips for us to work on this question type more effectively and maximize the number of questions that we answered correctly. Okay, now in order to answer this question correctly, first there will be a 5-step process that will be very helpful for you to apply to any reading question type. That will be the 5 steps as below. First steps, read the question. Okay, now when you read the question, you will try to pick out the important keywords, including the individuals mentioned in the question or the idea, etc. mentioned in the question, right? Now, after that, in step 2, based on the question, you will go back to the text, in this step, you will read the text, okay, and based on the kind of information asked about in the question, you will look for the relevant location in the passages for the information to answer. Okay, and then step 3, which is a very important step, and I could say that this is the most important step of all. This is called the prediction step. Okay, now in this step, you answer the question on your own terms and answer the question in your own words. You do not read the answer choices yet, but try to think about, a direct answer to the question. First, based on what the question is asking, and second, based on the information that you just gathered from the text. Okay, so I put answer the question in your own words. Okay, all right, and then after that, in step 4, you would read the answer choices. Now, it is very important to note that this step is not done until after you've made your predictions. So try to have your own idea first before you look at the answer choices. That way, you will not be swayed by the preconceptions, the confusions of all the incorrect answer choices caused for you. Okay, and then step 5, among the answer choices, you would choose the best answer that is closely matching with your prediction in step 3. Okay, so let's start. Now, all of these 5 steps will closely follow a strategy and a method that I call linear thinking. Okay, so I would kind of highlight it here and kind of underscore it so that it will be more boldly emphasized for you. Okay, all right, so let's get to the work. Now, first step, read the question. Based on the text, how would Damani Pierce and her team most likely describe the view of the scientists present in text 1? Okay, now first you would need to see what view that the scientists presented in text 1 is in order to look for the response of the people in text 2, right? Now, first, in text 1, look for the keyword scientists, and here it is, right? So this is their view. They caution that. Okay, now with linear thinking, what you do is, rather than reading word by word, kind of everything in detail. You would look for the general big picture of a sentence by focusing on the main independent clause and kind of, a little bit kind of overlook the detail describing, the main part, so that you will not focus too much on the vocabulary, as well as, understand the text faster and more accurately. Okay, so I can see that this part, while long-term human impact cannot be understated, I can see that this is a dependent, and it is kind of a contrasting clause, which is where the author's kind of acknowledging, rather than acknowledging an idea that somebody has probably made, rather than having his or her own idea put into this text. So what I would focus on is this phrase, this clause here, this part. Okay, and then now next, what I would do next is to find the head word of each main part of a clause. For example, I have, certain environmental events in a specific region is a very long subject phrase. So I need to go find just the most important part, which is the noun. So it is the event that is the most important part, right? And then I can, put a little more, maybe emphasizing detail that kind of gives us more information. So it is the environmental event or certain environmental events, right? And then for the verb, we have can have global implications, okay? So the idea here, in the exam, you would probably not have to write it down, but here I would write it down for you, so that we can understand it more easily. So the idea here is certain environmental events have important implications. Okay, and then everything else is secondary, because they are just modifiers to provide more descriptive details, rather than the main idea of the passage that you need to understand. And next, okay, so that is the view of the scientist in text 1. Now next, how about Damini and Pierce and her team, right? We need to go look for their idea, and what you need to look for is the conclusion, or the idea, their response. And by the word response, we need to go find maybe something that is important to them, for example, a research finding, for example, right? So we can see that here, Damini Pierce and her team were able to establish a causal connection, right? After observing, right? Now, what connection there is? Connection between the, wildfires and subsequent rise in lower stratosphere temperature, right? So we can see that they could, establish a connection between certain environmental events and subsequent temperature rise, right? Something like that. So there is a connection between certain events and some consequence that follows, okay? So we can kind of make a prediction that, according to Damini Pierce and her team, after their observation or their study and research, they could confirm the idea of the scientists presented in text 1. Okay, right, so that is a prediction. They confirmed, right? They confirmed the idea of the scientists after their observation. Right, now let's look at the answer choices and see whether they are correct or incorrect. Okay, in A, it is likely only relevant. Okay, only relevant is incorrect, because They confirm, right? And the word only wasn't mentioned in text 2, okay? So A is incorrect. B, it has merit as a viewpoint due to the evidence, okay, collected by Damini Pierce and her team. Yes, it's actually very good, right? Because it was confirmed after their observation, so B is kind of correct. C, it has dubious value. Now, dubious means kind of incorrect, wrong, right? Even though Damini Pierce and her team seem to have discovered corroborating evidence. Now, this part is correct, except for the fact that it has dubious value, which is incorrect according to text 2. So C is incorrect, okay? D, it may seem appealing, but this is the main part, right? It is contradictory to Damini Pierce and her team's findings. So D again is incorrect. And finally, the answer is B. Okay. Now, let me know if you have answered this question correctly even before I started explaining the question. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you will score as high as possible, as high as you want in your exam. And goodbye, and see you in our next videos.